Welcome to the Commissioner's Report. I'm Miles Vance. One of the organizations at the heart of Polk County's ongoing growth and development is the Central Florida Development Council, or CFDC. They work to bring large employers, diverse businesses, and high-wage jobs to Polk County. And today, we've got their president in the studio. Joining me today is County Commissioner and Chair Rick Wilson, along with CFDC President Sean Malott.
Good to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah,
Good
thank you.
to be here.
Glad to be here.
So, Mr. Malott, could you start out by explaining to our viewers who might not have ever heard of the CFDC what exactly the organization is and what its goals are?
Yeah, sure. No, I'd be happy to do that. And the Central Florida Development Council is Polk County's economic development partnership. And it's a partnership between the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Wilson is on our board as the liaison with the commission and the local business community. And really it's our mission to be able to grow an economy based upon high wage, high skilled jobs, and really all over Polk County. Our territory kind of covers the entire 2,000 square miles of our area, really working to try to make sure that there's opportunities for all of our communities for business success. And we have really 4 pillars that we focus on. One is we promote Polk County as Florida's best place for business. 2 is we advocate for key business issues. 3 is we facilitate collaborative partnerships. And then 4 is to advance strategic initiatives.
Okay, and one of the things you mentioned there is something that I think is really important, especially to all of our commissioners, and that's bringing in high skill and high wage jobs. Would both of you care to comment on how we bring in high skill, high wage jobs into the area?
Well, I can say this. I mean, that's a big importance to this county. For you, this county is changing so much in my lifetime here and to what it is today compared to what it was even 25, 30 years ago. It's bringing it. We were a certain deal here in Polk County. It was phosphate mining, cattle, citrus. That's pretty much it. Or you worked in the center of a town or working at the hardware store. I mean, people worked in the phosphate mines, citrus, and cattle, and that's changed. So what Sean and his people do, that we try to bring people in, or businesses that will replace that, because it's going away. But with good paying jobs, that hire a lot of people, and we look forward to that, and it makes this county better. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and what we see is that when people have good jobs, families are more stable, children have better success outcomes, and communities, are safer and more prosperous overall. It creates resiliency to a community. So, quality jobs are kind of the base of everything that we do, and we do that by really focusing in on those target industries. So target industry success, that we really strive for, are industries that pay higher than average wages within the community, and areas that can base upon that workforce that we do have within our market. We have the history of the industries that Commissioner Wilson shared. And really it's kind of looking to what's next, what's the next area that we can draw on success. And really when it comes to a company finding success in Polk County, it's so much about workforce. And is the workforce here to be able to be successful for their business operation? And if it isn't, can they train the workforce to be ready for that next that next opportunity? And we have wonderful higher education partners within Polk County that are there really at the ready to be able to assist with that type of growth. And not only is it just the workforce, but also the location. We have a great location. We are the geographic center of Florida. There's roughly 11 million consumers within about 100 miles of this area. So we're really well positioned for business success in a variety of industries, but really those target industries are the ones that we're going to see success for generations to come.
And what are some of those target sectors, some of those target industries that you're looking at?
Sure. Yeah. When it comes to target sectors, the ones that we've seen success and growth, one is health and life sciences. There's been expansion throughout Polk County from our healthcare providers. Lakeland Regional Health has expanded. Baycare continues to expand. Advent Health is expanding. Orlando Health is entering the market. They just announced kind of a partnership with Watson Clinic. So the healthcare industry in general has a plethora of higher wage jobs associated with that. And I think we're going to see transitioning into more of the life science realm with our higher ed groups and others when when there are employers looking to do research. We're going to see more of that type of a company that's interested in this area. Manufacturing is the one we continue to get a lot of interest in. We've had some recent successes with Nucor Steel, in Frostproof, Assure Infusions, in Bartow. Coca-Cola operates its most productive facility in North America in Auburndale. Wow. And manufacturing is the growth that is coming is related to again our location. The logistics industry has been very successful here, and manufacturers look to see what's happening in logistics. Because they know there's already a testament that this area is a quality location where they can get to a lot of places. So our manufacturers are doing the same, especially as in the environment we're talking about reshoring. A lot of the companies that we're seeing here in Polk County have already been through that process or going through that process, looking for locations that are close to consumers. And so this is a prime area for that. Research and technology. Recently, IFF in their Citrus Innovation Center announced an opening at Florida Poly right there on their campus. That's going to be their place to be able to to research the next from the the flavors and essences business. And we're seeing great success also in aviation and aerospace. So with Draken located at the Lakeland Airport, you have Amazon's Air Hub. Avelo Airlines in the market here now, the Hurricane Hunters. Again, a lot of movement taking place in the aviation industry, and we're seeing it kind of throughout the county from that perspective. But all those industries or all those those sectors are correlated to higher wages as a whole.
Absolutely, and there's so many examples that you provided just there. And with all this newfound interest in the area, Commissioner Wilson, it's something to consider balancing the private sector and the public sector. And this partnership really embodies how the commission has strived to, work with the private sector. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like working with the CFDC and other organizations?
Oh, it's a great organization to work with. Our county has, as most people that live here, they know that our county has blowed up population-wise in the last years, and it doesn't look like it's backing off any. But at one point in time, and I think the number's still the same, 90 people a day are moving to Polk County.
Wow.
And we're number one in the state, and about third or fourth in the nation. So with the stuff that Sean does and his people by getting good businesses in here that creates good jobs for these people moving in here. There's existing businesses here, no doubt about it. But some of these newer type facilities and newer jobs that are coming into our county, it's kind of like Sean said. We've got some great colleges and institutions because training has to be done on these, and of course we get some of the higher paying jobs, but there are always still good jobs that are here, but you got to face it. There's a lot of people, they don't want to be in certain jobs anymore. They want to move on and move up. And some of these companies that are coming to Polk County are pretty amazing. And 20 years ago, you never seen nothing like that. I mean, it was pretty much the same thing. I've even seeing stuff moving south, and no more like Nucor and Frostproof. It's turned that part of the county around.
Right.
And then there's the other side of this, and me and Sean always talked about this. There's people, we give incentives for these companies to come here. And Sean and his team have to go out and they have to fight for these businesses to come here because they're looking at different areas in the United States. And so we're trying to make it where they will come here instead of going someplace else because they're great companies and they're great companies to work for. So they work hard at that. So we try to do everything that we can, but also look out for our businesses that are here already. Yeah. Always here. Or you want to help these people that are coming from North Carolina to build a big facility here. Why don't you help us? Well, and we do in different ways. It might not be in the same thing that Sean does, but we do everything that we can to help our people here. But you always got to be looking down the road for new ideas and new companies because right now we're right under 1 million people in Polk County.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to believe, and we need good jobs. And you know, there's with the people that are coming here and with the companies that are coming here, I think it works out pretty good.
And one of the challenges that you face and that the entire county commission faces is balancing this explosive growth with the quality of life that we come to expect here in Polk County.
Yes.
You know, we have these beautiful nature areas, we have all these nice amenities, we have, you know, for the most part, very good roads and transportation. And how do you ensure that that quality of life stays maintained while we're, you know, experiencing this growth?
With this growth, it's hard to, I mean, it's hard, very hard. And I always tell everybody, we'll never get ahead of it as long as this growth continues with what we're seeing. You can't get ahead of it unless people stop coming, or we don't let them in the county. You know, either way. I mean, that sounds kind of silly, but it's the truth. You only can build so many roads. You only can do so much infrastructure, but we try to stay ahead of it as well as we can. Our county does a real good job, you know, doing that. But we're not perfect. You know, but we know this: when it comes to building a road or whatever, by the time we think about building a road, by the time we get it done and you drive on it, it's 8 to 9 years.
Yeah.
90 people a day. Remember that number. So that's tough to keep up with.
Right.
And with the trying to get all the conservation and everything that we can, we're pretty fortunate right now in Polk County. Everything north of Highway 60 is what's exploding. Mm-hmm. Everything south of Highway 60, which that's most of my district, is still a lot to do with cattle and, you know, citrus and stuff like that. But that is going to change. I've already started seeing it, which is, you know, it's growth. That's what happens.
Yeah. And Mr. Malott, what are some of the things that companies are doing to you know, encourage that balance, that quality of life in Polk County? Because I know some of these companies are making strides in the things that they do with their investments in the area to ensure that they're offsetting their, you know, impact.
They're first looking to see, can they attract the workforce that they need? Is it a place where their employers, you know, their employees are going to want to work? So that's part of it. So it's really kind of tied into that piece of it. That's what makes Polk County attractive, not only to the people that are moving here from a residential side, but also moving here from an industry side. And also existing companies. I don't want to understate that piece about the programs that we have are available for companies, you know, here in our market too, and they utilize the programs too. And it is, you know, there are tools in our toolkit to really, you know, emphasize that Polk is a great place to do business. As we said, we think it's the best place in Florida to do business, and therefore we want to remind our current companies that are here, you know, if they're building a new facility, do it in Polk County. You know, don't go across the line to a neighboring county. Don't go to another place that, you know, we have the quality infrastructure and the quality of life to be able to support that growth. And, you know, I'll give you kind of an example of Nucor, which is, you know, that the commissioner mentioned that, you know, one of the things that I find just really gratifying is when I know a facility like that, which was a competitive situation, you know, they looked at lots of locations throughout Florida to be able to locate, and they chose Polk. They chose Polk because of, you know, the location, you know, and all those things we talked about. But now there are over 200 people working at that facility. The average wage for those 200 people are over $140,000, you know, annually. That's roughly about a $29 million annual payroll for people that at that facility. And again, it is something when I go out to, you know, to a restaurant and I see someone with a Nucor shirt on, I mean, that to me is why I do my job, is to be able to see that, because I know a family is being impacted, and it's really satisfying from that perspective. And we have lots of examples for that. You know, Publix is again a company that has invested in a major way in Polk County, but continue to invest here. They are in more locations now than ever. They have regional headquarters facilities in other markets, and so their investment here is important. And we continue to want to be supportive of what they're doing, and we appreciate their the commissioner's support for a wide range of businesses around this area. But great example of giving back to the community in a major way.
Absolutely. Well, we're running low on time here, so I just want to ask one last question to you, Commissioner Wilson. When you think about the CFDC and that partnership, looking towards the future in 5 years, 10 years, what do you think that looks like? What are your goals for that partnership, and what are your goals for our residents?
Just keep doing what we're doing, and bringing good paying jobs to this county,
Yeah.
and good companies that are going to stay here, and you know that not only people now can go to work, that their children can go to work there, and just have good companies that make this county better. That's what it's all about. And
right.
And we're going to keep working hard at it and get it done.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Mr. Malott. Thank you for coming
Thank
into
you.
the studio.
Hey, it was great being here.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.